everyone. How's it going? I hope you're all doing really well. I know you are from all over the world, folks who subscribe to my channel. I'm so grateful to have you all on this journey with me. To the folks that are new and have fortunately found me, I'm Dr. Frankie Bashan. I'm a clinical psychologist with over 2 decades of experience. I'm also a board certified sex therapist and the CEO of a company called Little Gay Book, Little Black Book. It's a national matchmaking firm. And what we do is we search, we screen, we vet, we coordinate beautiful dates for people, we educate, we provide a lot of coaching and support on the journey to finding love and then acquiring the skills and the tools that it takes to actually maintain and keep that love. Because many of us have been taught that, love is all you need. And actually, love is not enough in most cases. We need to know how to be in relationship and how to, recognize our blind spots, how to understand our attachment style and how our partners might differ and how we can show up for them and how we can take care of ourselves and have good boundaries and how we can communicate effectively. And gosh, there's so many different things, so many skills and ways and techniques that we need to acquire and learn to have healthy, grounded, really connected relationships that create an environment for intimacy and trust and growth. So here's where you'll find so many topics and tools and skills that are shared from a psychologist's perspective, myself, my own lived experiences, and so many decades and face-to-face conversations with clients over the years that have really taught me so many things that I like to share with you all. Because why should we all reinvent the wheel when we have information at our fingertips that we can actually learn and implement here today? And that's my purpose. I think I have become very clear as to my purpose in life, and it is to be one, a conduit to help make a meaningful, beautiful connections for people and also provide information that can be helpful and move the needle. So today I want to talk about how to heal after an abusive relationship and open your heart again. Yeah, that's so hard, right? We get so armored up after we've been hurt, betrayed, disappointed. And how do we? How do we open up so that we can stay available for connection and love? Because that's what it's all about, folks. It's about being available and accessible and hopeful about when it comes to connection and getting close to somebody. So let's jump in. Experience abuse of any kind in a relationship context, emotional, psychological, physical, or sexual abuse, is a profoundly harmful experience. And it leaves many people feeling like they're living in the after of an event that will define their lives and their relationships forever. Recovering from a bad breakup in a healthy relationship is hard enough. If your relationship was in any way abusive, it can feel impossible to imagine ever giving or receiving love again. It is possible to heal from abuse and open yourself up to love again. Here's how to start approaching the process with a heavy dose of patience and compassion for yourself. Yes. We have to give ourselves compassion and self-love. It's the only way. And we often really struggle with doing that. Take your time and be patient with yourself. Healing after abuse is a gradual process that requires patience, self-compassion, and repeated experiences of safety over time. It may take a long time to feel like reality of your past abuse isn't the lens through which you primarily view romantic relationships or intimacy. And more than anything, it's important to be patient with yourself about this. Doesn't mean you're broken or permanently damaged if you're finding it hard to move on from your abuse or get over it. Remember, the words we tell ourselves hold a lot of power. So when we say we're broken or damaged, try to slow down and rephrase that. It could be, we're working on ourselves, we're healing, we're repairing, we've been through a lot, this kind of thing. It also doesn't mean that you'll feel this way forever or that this experience is going to define your entire life, unless, of course, you allow it to. You have control, people. It is true, however, that abuse can have significant impacts on your nervous system and your ability to access a sense of safety in your relationships. And those are both healed only through repeated corrective experiences of safety over a long period of time. If you're still feeling impacted by your abuse after what feels to you like a long time, whether that's PTSD symptoms, changes in your attachment style, difficulty with or extreme dependence on romantic relationships, fear, shame, or hypervigilance, that's completely normal and to be expected, not a sign that you're failing in any way. Although it can be hard to live with the aftermath of abuse and know that recovering is a long-term project, it's really important not to despair. You will still be able to experience love, joy, and safety in your life. Working with a qualified counselor or a therapist can help you maintain realistic expectation for this period of your life and provide you with support and affirmation that you are actually moving forward and you're getting better. Practicing relating safely in non-romantic intimacy. Rebuilding a sense of safety often starts outside of romantic relationships through consistent, supportive, and emotionally safe connections. Part of what's so insidious about abuse is that it occurs within a vulnerable interpersonal context where we're supposed to experience a lot of trust and safety. Being abused in a romantic context can make our nervous system feel that intimacy and closeness are inherently unsafe. An extreme version of trust issues, as it's commonly put. Because the effects of abuse live so deeply in our bodies, not just our thinking brains, it's often not enough to just reassure ourselves that we're safe or have a partner reassure us that they aren't going to hurt us. Our nervous system needs the chance to relearn over time that relationships can be safe and healthy and needs to be given a lot of examples to prove this point. These don't need to be romantic relationships, and in fact, it may be better if they're actually not. Practicing showing up consistently and vulnerably in other intimate contexts, like close friendships and family relationships, can help us reorient towards safety and stability after experiencing interpersonal harm and abuse. Asking for and offering help and support, sharing interior experiences, and listening to others' experiences, seeking out moments of platonic domestic intimacy, and having safe people in your life to co-regulate with and be important steps in rebuilding a sense of felt safety in relationships with others. And I talk about co-regulation and self-regulation in previous episodes, so check back and see if you're not familiar. Definitely get familiar because it's important to understand co-regulation, self-regulation. If you're able to pursue therapy or counseling after experiencing abuse, a therapist's support can be invaluable in helping to process the challenges of learning to trust intimacy and relationships with others again. The therapeutic relationship itself can also be an important place to build trust and safe attachment. Being able to express vulnerability and uncertainty and have it received with support and compassion by your therapist can be a crucial development in reforming secure attachment on its own. Open your heart again with honesty and support. Returning to dating after abuse involves moving at your own pace, communicating your needs clearly, and surrounding yourself with trusted support. There's no official notification you receive to let you know you're ready to find love again after experiencing abuse. But intimacy and connection are a core part of the human experience, and at some point, you'll feel a desire to connect with a romantic partner again. Trust me. It can feel daunting to take this on when you've been deeply hurt by someone in the past. It's important to remember you don't have to do it alone. It's completely up to you when and how much you want to disclose to future dates or future partners about your past experiences with abuse. But being transparent with people you're interested in seriously about what you've experienced can help you have conversations about what you need to feel safe and secure in relationships going forward. This conversation can be an important litmus test for potential dates or partners, how they respond to your disclosure and whether they can back up their verbal response with taking action to meet your needs and reaffirm your safety in the relationship speaks volumes to what kind of partner they'll be overall. A potential date who gets defensive, acts dismissive, pushes you to trust them before you're ready, or doesn't take your disclosure seriously is showing you red flags. It's also helpful to build on the trust and intimacy you build with friends and family to keep a network of support as you begin to date again. Your support network can help you buoy through the challenges and moments of doubt that come with navigating dating again after experiencing harm, and also provide a layer of gut checking. Does this new person you're interested in seem like a good fit and a healthy partner? While it's not realistically possible to tell whether someone will ultimately be abusive or not, being open and transparent with your support network about what's going on in your relationships and how it's affecting you can be a safeguard against abuse in the future. I hope you found something helpful today. Let it marinate. Think about how you can apply it to your lives. If this resonates, if you know somebody else out there that this would be helpful for, please share it. If you liked it, like it. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. It'll remind me that I'm doing exactly what I need to do. It'll keep me showing up here. And I'm grateful for all of your support. Thank you for being on this journey with me. Take good care. Kisses, hugs. Bye, everyone.